My name is Sean Clerkin. I was the original complainant 5.5 years ago, which generated Operation Branch Form, which has resulted in the conviction of Peter Murrell.
And can you just explain why you're here today?
I'm here today because our First Minister John Swinney said that the £666,000, which was earmarked for the Independence Referendum Fund, and it was only to be used for independence referendum campaigning, had all been spent. And he said it was spent on He said it had been spent on SNP objectives, and that means nothing. He just said he'd spent the money had been spent, and he was asked again, where was the money spent? And he says it was spent on SNP objectives. So in other words, the money was used to be spent on other things other than the second independence referendum fund. The fund was meant to be set up as a ring-fenced fund just for a second independence referendum campaign, and it was not spent on that. And that was the agreement for all the donors. The terms and conditions were very simply that the money had to be spent on a second referendum campaign, and that was the only reason the money could be spent.
And how do you feel about this?
Angry. Disappointed. In fact, what I've done this afternoon is I've went back into Police Scotland and asked for the reopening of the entire police investigation regarding the missing £666,000, because that was my original complaint, and I've asked that to be reopened.
And do you think this is another example of SNP members being let down or betrayed?
They've been defrauded on a mass scale. And I'm now calling for John Swinney to resign as First Minister, because it's quite clear they've been covering this up for years. Because back in the day, from 2017 onwards, right through to the 2020s, the SNP were saying at official level and at senior level, the money was there. The money was ring-fenced within a referendum fund, and that was ring-fenced and would only be used for campaigning on a second independence referendum. And they kept saying that for years, and then all of a sudden today, for the very first time, they said, "Oh, the money's been spent; it's all gone." So absolutely astonished how casually he was about saying this, and he should resign. He's got to go. And I think the Nicola Sturgeon, the decision not to charge her, there should be a review of that decision. There should be a review of that decision to drop the charges against her. There should be a complete review of all that. In fact, I think there has to be a complete police investigation of the whole senior leadership of the SNP, because they've been involved in a cover-up. They've been involved in preventing people having a look at the SNP finances, covering up Peter Murrell's crimes, and now we learn today the £666,000 has all been spent. Now, the question was asked today of John Swinney: was this money put towards the £500,000 refund on the loan from the Weir family? He would not answer that question. He sidestepped it. He never said no. He just sidestepped it. So this money seems to have been spent on a lot of other things that are nothing to do with a second independence referendum. The money was only earmarked for a second independence referendum, and that was what the fund was. It was ring-fenced, and the terms and conditions were specific. It could only be used for that purpose, and that is fraud if it was used for anything else. So Swinney and the whole senior leadership should resign.